Welcome to FishBits, my lessons learned in life that I'd like to share with you. Today we're going to talk about burnout. I'm 54 years old and I have been burnt out 3 times in my life. Once at IBM in my 30s, once at Cisco in my 40s, and once just recently at Cisco in my 50s. For those of you who have not gone through burnout, I have a friend of mine who suffers from depression, and I think that there is an analogy that I'm going to draw between when she talks about when she's in depression. It is hard for her to remember the times that have been fun. It is hard for her to remember what it feels like when she's not in depression. It's like kind of sort of being in this drop in the ground that's just dark, this pit, and she can't seem to see the light up there. That sounds similar to how I have experienced burnout. So when I have experienced burnout, it's just kind of sort of like, why do I find this so much fun? And it just eats so much of my life. And so it's so hard. So I want to pass on lessons learned from burnout with you. So we're also going to take a page out of my Techniques of a Network Detective that I teach at Cisco Live, where I tell people that every time you have a failure in your network, you should take that failure and try to do a lessons learned from it to keep that from happening again. So how do you prevent that from happening again? If you can't prevent it, how could you have better prepared? So let's take it from a perspective from that perspective. So my experiences with burnout have been a few of them. The first time was a surprise so I think the first time you go through burnout, at least my experience, the first time I went through burnout was the worst because I didn't know the telltale signs of what I call getting crispy. So getting crispy and burnout. So this is a strange fishism analogy. So if you take a piece of bread, the bread, by the way, is us, and you put it in the toaster oven and you press it down. And the bread is just in the toaster. That's all it is. It's just getting crispy in the toaster. And it's getting work done, right? Something's happening. And so that's you in there getting your work done. When the bread is in the toaster for, quote, too long, it's going to become potentially completely black and burnt out. Now, I don't know about you, but when it gets to that point, I take the 2 pieces of bread and I throw them in the garbage because they have become useless. That to me has been my experience when I go through burnout, is that it's hard to get motivated for work. It's hard to get excited about things. And even if I do get excited about something, it's like it lasts for about a day. And then kind of sort of like the burnout pulls me back down again. So what my coworkers as a team lead in CPOC know is I always used to say, before you hit burnout, you will start feeling what I call crispy. Because obviously the bread does not turn blackened and burnt overnight. Okay, the bread doesn't turn blackened and burnt immediately, right? It actually has to be in the toaster for a while. Before you hit burnout, there will be certain telltale signs. For each one of us, it's going to be different. For me, it's just like this fried feeling. So I call it crispy. And I work out. It's like a little bit harder to get into work. It's a little bit harder to do this. I'm not as excited, which for me is a big thing because I get a lot of excitement from my work and from what I do and from learning things and passing on to others. I haven't blogged on my webpage since June. The idea of blogging is like, tweeting. I haven't been on Twitter. It's like, why do I tweet again? So again, it's kind of sort of like that analogy when I hear my friend talk about depression. It's like, tweeting just seems like so much work. But no, today it's fun again. Blogging, it's just so much work. So when I start having those kinds of thoughts, I know I'm getting crispy. What is crispy? Well, when you put the bread in and before it gets completely blackened and charred and you're going to throw it away, there's a point between perfect toast and blackened where it's just getting a little bit crispy. And so we can start noticing the warning signs for that. And we can get it out. And that is when you can actually just kind of sort of get off the little black. So what I tell people when I'm a team lead for them is you need to let me know when you're starting to get crispy. Because a team lead can help you prevent getting burnt out. And we can help throw resources and stuff like that when you're still crispy. The reason why I point that out is because we, as IT people, especially as we get more senior, we're always asking our management to have us be more empowered. Part of that empowerment is also making sure that you communicate and that you take care of yourself. Otherwise, you can get to a point of burnout where you're not really being of much use for your company. So how did burnout, if I am so wise, how did I get burnt out again? Well, this time it wasn't as bad. It wasn't as bad as in my 30s and 40s, and I also knew it was probably going to happen. So I had a number of different large projects that originally had been staggered, but I had said yes to all of them. Because of different things, this one accelerated sooner, this one actually delayed, so all three of them actually overlapped. Not a lot I could do with it then. And a lot of it was on me. So from that perspective, I kind of sort of knew what I was going to be going into, but I also knew that I'd be taking 2 weeks of vacation, scuba diving in Bonaire, and that I didn't have another huge project on my plate, so it was kind of sort of okay. So this time was kind of sort of between heavily crispy and burnt out. So it didn't take me the months and months to get back from like it did when I was in my 30s. So that's my view on and my experience with burning out, and again, trying to figure out how you can avoid that. And so for me, that is making sure that I work out, that I make sure I have time with my wife, and I make sure that I have, it's a novel concept, some type of moderation going on in my life. A little bit hard for me as a little ADD hyper sometimes. But so moderation, that's my lesson learned. Moderation is something that I really, really can struggle with. And the closer I am to crispy and the closer I am to burnout, the less moderation I have in my life. The further away from it I am, the more moderation I have in my life. I'm working out, I'm taking my vitamins, I'm eating well, I'm having a balanced life with friends and work and everything. And so it's just, it's just a cycle. And I seem to just have to relearn sometimes the same lessons learned over and over and over again. So don't be hard on yourself. Just try to learn and then move forward, because there's nothing you can do about yesterday. All you can do is learn from it and try to move forward. Have a great day, and I'm out.